Mars is no longer just a distant red planet. It's now the center of a fierce new battleground between global superpowers, and the United States is making its move. Welcome back to GeoFrontline. Today, we're diving into the most high-stakes race of the 21st century. It's not about missiles, ships, or oil. It's about who controls the next frontier, space. And the final destination is Mars. Just weeks ago, the Trump administration gave a bold green light to NASA to fast-track deployment of a powerful nuclear reactor on the moon. The timeline: before the decade ends. Why? Because whoever powers the moon powers access to Mars. And Washington isn't about to let Beijing or Moscow dominate that path. The reactor, a compact but mighty 100-kilowatt unit, will become the beating heart of future American bases, enabling 24/7 operations, even during the harsh 2-week lunar night. The United States isn't just thinking about exploration. This is strategy. A lunar base with nuclear power allows for non-stop communications, refueling stations, autonomous mining, and staging posts for interplanetary missions. It means America will set the rules for who gets to explore, extract, and expand. But China isn't standing still. Under Xi Jinping's directive, Beijing is rapidly advancing its own deep space ambitions. The Tianwen-3 Mars mission is scheduled to retrieve samples from the Martian surface before 2031, potentially beating the US to this major milestone. China has already proven its capabilities with the successful landing of the Tianwen-1 rover, GeoFrontline. And with their growing space military integration, this isn't just a science mission. It's about dominance. President Trump, back in office, has doubled down on his America First space doctrine. His new budget proposal shifts billions toward the Artemis program, private space partnerships, and lunar base development. Meanwhile, key U.S. defense firms like BWX Technologies, specialists in nuclear propulsion, are gaining contracts to ensure the U.S. doesn't fall behind in deep space propulsion. At the same time, NASA is strengthening its alliances through the Artemis Accords. Over 50 nations have signed on to America's rules-based framework for space exploration. These agreements aim to ensure open, peaceful exploration. But they also clearly define who's aligned with Washington and who isn't. China and Russia, notably, have refused to join. Instead, Beijing and Moscow are building their own international lunar research station. Their version of space collaboration is state-led, closed-source, and built to exclude Western competitors. Their lunar facility will also rely on nuclear power, raising alarms in Western intelligence circles about potential military applications. Because, let's be clear, space is no longer a peaceful vacuum. It's becoming militarized. But here's the critical point. America has the edge. While China builds through state control, the U.S. thrives on innovation and partnerships. SpaceX, Blue Origin, Lockheed Martin, these aren't just contractors. They're disruptors. They're delivering reusable rockets, advanced landers, and orbital infrastructure faster and cheaper than any state-led program. Yet, the clock is ticking. NASA's flagship Mars sample return mission has hit delays and budget pressures. If the U.S. doesn't act fast, China could land the first samples back on Earth and claim a historic propaganda victory. There's also the question of mining. The Moon and Mars are rich in critical resources: helium-3, rare earth metals, even water ice that can be converted into rocket fuel. Controlling these resources will translate into immense economic power back on Earth. China understands this, has already mapped high-value sites on both the Moon and Mars. If they reach them first, they could set up exclusion zones, similar to how they've militarized artificial islands in the South China Sea. That's why Trump's push to secure U.S. leadership in cislunar space is strategic, not symbolic. A nuclear-powered moon base gives America a foothold to counter Chinese influence, prevent monopolies on extraterrestrial resources, and maintain orbital superiority. Let's not forget the military dimension. China's People's Liberation Army has rapidly developed counter-space capabilities, anti-satellite weapons, cyber attacks, and satellite jammers. Washington views this not just as a race for prestige, but as a threat to national security. A space-based conflict scenario, once science fiction, is now part of U.S. wargaming models. In response, U.S. Space Command has launched Operation Lunar Shield, a multi-agency initiative to protect American assets beyond Earth orbit. Trump has given the Pentagon direct oversight over any Chinese or Russian activity near critical U.S. assets in lunar orbit. This is deterrence, not provocation. The goal is clear: keep space open, but keep America in charge. So, what does Mars have to do with all of this? Everything. Mars is not just a planet. It's the next leap in human expansion. Whoever gets there first will shape the infrastructure, the rules, and the reality of interplanetary life. Whether it's colonization, scientific breakthroughs, or resource exploitation, Mars is the crown jewel. And right now, the US and China are locked in a sprint to reach it. While Beijing focuses on state missions, the US is fostering a dual-track approach. SpaceX is already testing its Starship for potential Mars launches. Elon Musk claims the first manned mission could happen as early as 2029. Whether or not that's realistic, one thing is certain: America is serious about getting there. The stakes couldn't be higher. A successful U.S. mission to Mars will reaffirm American leadership not just in science, but in global power. It will demonstrate that open systems, innovation, and alliances can outperform authoritarian models. It will prevent Beijing from rewriting the rules of space the way it's trying to rewrite them on Earth. This is the new Cold War, but it's playing out millions of miles above us. And yet, it's not inevitable. America must act now. That means fully funding NASA's missions, accelerating the moon reactor timeline, expanding public-private partnerships, and keeping strategic focus on Mars. The Biden years saw stagnation. Now, with Trump back in charge, the goal is clear: reclaim U.S. dominance in space. Because if the United States loses this race, not only does it cede the future of exploration, it risks surrendering the next century of geopolitical advantage. Space is not neutral. Space is power. And Mars is the ultimate prize. Thanks for watching GeoFrontline, and hit the bell for more deep dives into global strategy, military affairs, and the rising front lines shaping our world.